It's flu season, and I don't know where you are, but I'm pretty sure it does not feel like it. I know where I am, it's like 80 something degrees. So it definitely doesn't feel like flu season, but it's right around the corner. And so, what does that really mean? As an employer or an employee, it's going to be a major shift. What's going to happen in the next couple of months? We're going to start seeing people call out sick. We're going to see people call out sick because their children are sick. People are scurrying around getting vaccinations. People are refusing to get vaccinations. So I want to just talk a little bit about how this is going to impact your workplace and what's your rights. And as an employer, what should you do? Can your employer force you to get a vaccination? What happens when your employer says to you, go home, you're too sick, and you're saying, no, I'm fine, I want to stay? What happens when your employer says, come to work today, and you say, no, I'm too sick, I can't come? So that's what we're going to be discussing. So the first one today we're going to just kind of tackle really is, can your employer force you to get a flu vaccination? Good question, right? You start to say, well, I have rights. It's my body. I have privacy rights. So let's kind of even think about it, because right now we see, especially in the healthcare industry, lots of employers mandating the flu virus. They're making the flu shot. They're making this mandatory. And it's simply, their stake is that, hey, look, you're working with patients, you're working with people who are sick. That's why they're here. And we don't want them to get any more sick. And so you need to get the vaccination. Also, you know yourself being in a workplace when you're not feeling well, or someone's not feeling well, and they come in there and they're coughing all everybody else, and then everybody else tends to start getting sick. And so it's a matter of trying to contain the virus. And so the question is, should they be able to ask me to get this virus if I don't want to? Can I really infect other people? Well, with the flu, before you even recognize the symptoms in your own body, you're already contagious and could be, the symptoms, before you see the symptoms, you can also be passing it on to someone else. And even after you're feeling a lot better, you still could be passing your flu on to someone else. And so there's a really concern with that, especially if you don't have the vaccination. So can they refuse you? So I want to give you some, just arm you as an employee and as an employer of what you can and cannot do. Now, in a workplace, if you don't want to take the vaccination and it's mandatory, if it is against your religion, you could use, you could basically use religious privileges and opt out that way. Now, some employees, if you're saying that you're not going to do it because of religious reasons, then you're going to need to get something from your spiritual head, basically a clergy, to say that this is a part of your faith and that's why you're going to be excused from it. Or it could be a medical reason, and then you would need a doctor's note. Perhaps maybe some of the ingredients in the vaccination just doesn't sit well with you, and so therefore, but you're going to need a doctor's note to be exempted. So religious or a medical, a lot of times you are going to need some documentation. Well, then you could say, well, you know what, I'm not going to get it. You can't force me to get it, or I just don't want to get it, and I don't have either. Or you do have one, but remember this: if most of us are working in an at-will state. And what does that mean? At-will employment means that your employer can ask you to leave at any time. They can terminate your employment for any reason at any time, as long as not as discrimination reason. And so think about that when you're saying, well, I don't want to take the vaccination, if they're making it mandatory. And the other thing is, if your employer can show that you are a threat to safety, to the environment, it's another reason why they could either let you go or ask you to get that vaccination. Because you have to think about it. If you're working in a large place where there's a lot of people and they feel that this is going to be a widespread, and we're looking at the numbers of how many people are dying every year, anywhere between, in the thousands, and healthy children are dying just from getting the flu, then we see that there's a reason why people are asking for it. And if they feel that this is something that could impact the workplace, where if someone came in who was not vaccinated could go ahead and affect everyone else and cause the whole office to shut down, then they can prove that it could be an OSHA ruling. So these are just some things I want you to think about as an employee, as you're going into this season. As an employer, what should you do with your employees who also, may or may not want a vaccination or have the flu? So Could you force your employees? I don't know. But I would love to hear from you. Do you think employers should be able to make it mandatory for employees to get a vaccination? Love to hear from you. Drop it in the comments. Have a nice day.